Yeah.
Hey guys, we're here for another episode of the show that has yet to be named. I'm here with Kim from Kims.Cinema.Escape. I said it right that time. And we're going to talk horror remakes, our top 5 favorite horror remakes. So, I mean, we didn't really have too much going on for this list in terms of like rules, except that try not to have too many ties. And then I put a lot of ties. So you're the guest and you can go first.
Okay. My number 5 is It.
Like it?
It is It Chapter 1. Yeah, I a big fan of the original. Tim Curry is my man. I love him. But I was so excited for the remake when it came out, and I think Bill Skarsgård is great in it. He's different enough from Tim Curry to kind of make himself stand out. I'm not a big fan of Andy Muschietti's CGI style, but I kind of put it, on the back burner. But the way the kids are with each other and things like that, it's just a really well written movie. It's creepy, it's scary, and I think it kind of follows the book a bit more than the original, and it allows for more to happen. So I think that it's not the best remake, but it's a favorite one of mine, just for the pure fact I'm a huge It fan, huge Stephen King fan, so it had to go on.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Okay, so on my number 5, I have a tie, as one would expect. Okay, so I don't care what anybody thinks about this. I have Friday the 13th, the remake, and I have Evil Dead. I don't think Evil Dead is anywhere near as good as the first 2 movies, but for some reason, it's just such a fun watch, even though it's not trying to be a fun movie. Like, there's just something about it. Like, all the gore is just like so silly that even though it's not trying to be silly, it is by accident.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. And I think Friday the 13th remake, it captured what a Jason movie used to be. It's kind of like they forgot how to make Jason movies. And like, I'm not saying it's like a mind-blowing movie, but it recaptured the roots of Jason, just finding a bunch of kids at a camp and then killing all of them, or at a cabin where he's not in New York, he's not in hell, he's not in space. And I think they just did a good job. Visually, it looks good too. It's a lot darker while still having like that little bit of comedy.
Fair, interesting. Well, my number 4 is Evil Dead, so there's my opinion on that one. But yeah, I've not seen the Friday the 13th remake just because it just looks terrible. But maybe I'll take your word for it.
It's better than most of the end of the franchise.
Yeah, better than Jason X.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jason X because it's so bad. But yeah, that's it. Okay, I'll do number 4. I got another tie. Guess what? So I have The Invisible Man. I believe it's 2018 or 2019.
2020.
Well, 2020. Holy, okay,
yeah. It's just been that long since things were open at the beginning of 2020. It feels like longer, I think, because I saw it in just before COVID hit. So
I mean, it had good writing, good acting. It just felt genuinely scary for a movie that's about what it's about. Like, she was so helpless. No one could do anything because you can't see what's attacking you, right? And I think it was really well made. And then my tie is The Fly, with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, who also plays you on a show. But I mean, The Fly is not a movie that I would say for sure is like one of my favorites, but I've always liked it, and I think I couldn't have this list without it on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great. I think Invisible Man was one of my honorable mentions. I think it was great. I think it was just slightly too recent for me to put it on an all-time list, but it is really good.
It caught me so off guard that I watched it like 4 times already because every time was with anybody, I was like, oh, did you see Invisible Man? No, okay, let's watch Invisible Man. So like I just kept watching it. I don't know, I really like it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since the cinema. I'm due a rewatch because I did really enjoy it, and I like the way they use the kind of like abuse side of it, which is it's pretty dark, but it makes it justified and more kind of effective, I guess. But yeah, and The Fly, it's a classic, so no qualms there at all. Um, my number three is The Ring. Probably the only good American remake of a J horror, in my opinion. Is that what's next on your list?
No, I'm just on that. I kind of like The Grudge, not in the way that I would say it's a good movie, but it handles the like paranormal element. I think even better than Ju-on does, but Ju-on is just a better movie.
Michelle Gellar one.
Yeah,
the Sarah Michelle Gellar one. Yeah,
I felt like the ghost part of it was far more scary, but it just the movie overall wasn't handled well in comparison to the Japanese one.
It's okay. Like I used to watch that a lot when I was younger, but it changes the whole point of the story. I don't like how it changes the ending.
I agree with that.
The female ghost is still the bad one when she's not in the original, but the original terrifies me. I love that film a lot. But The Ring, I just found that it Americanizes it without losing the tone. It changes a bit here and there, but it's still quite gritty and different. And I think Gore Verbinski's an underrated director. I hate using that word, everyone does, but I think he's got some really good movies.
You're not going to not say Pirates of the Caribbean is a classic, so.
Oh well, I love the first two of the Pirates of the Caribbean, but
I mean, when you see 4 and 5, you appreciate 3.
I've watched them all. Do you not remember? I watched all.
Yeah, I know.
As well.
But like once you Gore Verbinski.
But I think The Ring is, I think Naomi Watts is great. She's kind of queen of the remake, really, isn't she? She else has she done Funny Games? She's in something else that's coming out soon as well. But it just, again, another film I grew up watching a lot before I saw the original. The original, in my opinion, is better, but yeah, I think it's a worthy remake and one of the only ones that kind of captured the essence, I guess, is probably the right word.
All right, well, that's fair because my number 3 is a tie. I'm hoping that you guessed that. I have no more ties after this though.
Okay.
It's the hold on, I'll get you the year. It's the 1988 version of The Blob. And which my dad used to watch it a lot when I was a kid, and I don't know why, but I watched it again last year for like Halloween times for one of the events, and it's so good. Like it's such a fun movie that it's such a dumb monster. It like shouldn't work, but it absolutely works. And my tie is with The Ring. And I think the reason The Ring is better than The Grudge is because it's an actually good movie. Like, forget about it being a remake, forget about it being a horror movie. Those elements aside, it's actually a well-made movie that has good acting and like smart writing, and it pieces together as a good mystery, but it's also scary as hell. Like I the first time I watched that, I was like, I'm never watching that movie ever again. I was convinced that movie was going to give me the curse and I was going to have like something crawling out of my TV. But
oh God, did you do that when you were when it came out? Did you and your friends used to watch it and then someone run out and then like call up and be like 7 days down the phone?
No, but my cousins did that to me once when we were watching Scream. Because my cousins used to, I watched it maybe when I was like 7 or 8, because they used to make us watch horror movies because they thought it was funny to scare us. So they were the ones that made me watch Scream, and it had just come out. It was like 1995 or 1996, and like, but it ended up being like one of my favorite movies ever made. So but they did that once. They called the phone. One of them called the phone, and the other one picked it up and was talking. and then they
Yeah.
gave us the phone and doing the voice, and I hate everybody. But The Ring is good and The Blob is good. I recommend both.
I'm yet to see The Blob, so that'll be one for my list. The Fly is my number 2. I
That's a
tried
good
to not
choice.
say that, but yeah, I
I mean,
think
that's what
it's
I did with The
just
Ring. I did it to you, so it's fair.
yeah, it's great, and I love David Cronenberg, but you can't look past Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Gina Davis, my apparent doppelganger.
It's such a good movie. It really
It's
is.
so good.
My only like qualm with it, the reason I was talking about it on the list, is just because when I really thought about it, is it really one of my favorites? I mean, I do really like it, but like it's not a movie that I always want to watch. You know what I mean? But I feel
Yeah.
like if I didn't have it on the list, I would feel upset with myself after. So
I think it is one of the best horror remakes ever. Like,
yeah,
aside, my opinion aside, I think like objectively it is.
if this was a best of list, it would probably be my number one.
Mm,
Or number 2. So we're pretty close because my number 1 is
yeah.
like, well, my number 2, anyways, is It Chapter 1.
Okay.
In my world, you have Tim Curry, Pennywise, and then you have It Chapter 1, and then there's nothing else. It ends after Chapter 1. Chapter 2 does not exist. I'm sorry, Jessica Chastain. I really like you, but that movie's a piece of shit.
Yeah, it was disappointing.
The whole theater that I was in, it was the first day, like right after dinner showing, it was completely full. And it was all like, it's a VIP one, so it's all adults. Well, it's rated R anyways, but everybody walking out was like, that was so bad. That was so bad. And my friend just didn't say one word to us for the whole ride home. Well, there was like 4 of us, I think. One guy didn't talk at all. He was so mad because everyone had such high hopes for this. But like, my argument is the second half of the book, the adult half of the book sucks. The adult half of the miniseries sucks. And so it's like, what were we expecting to get out of this?
I know. Yeah, it's a pattern. And I think it just it just felt like here's a scene and then here's another scene that doesn't really link. And it was just like bits like kind of stitched together without a real
And the horror was not scary at all in the second one. It felt forced.
I think it
a
was
lot of
true to the
CGI.
book. It was
Yes.
true to the book and its ending and stuff, but I think a lot of people only know it from the 90s miniseries, so they're like,
As they
when
should.
this weird big alien thing turns up at the end, they're like, what the fuck?
Well,
Like, what is
I know
this?
a lot of people complained about like the way he looks. We talked about this in another podcast recently, but he's an alien. And a lot of the things that happen in Stephen King universe are based around aliens, like the Force or whatever the hell it's called in The Shining. It's called The Shining, but that's all like an alien thing that's happening. Like people, it's like radiation or I don't know, some dumb. There's a big turtle, like whatever. But I have to agree with what you said. The ending of the second one was like, it was already a bad movie, and then it just jumped off the deep end with all that stupid CGI, way too much CGI.
I can't get on board with it. It's in all of his films. It's in Mama as well. It's just really unrealistic.
Well, Mama's a good movie. People should watch that, but
it's a good movie, but the CGI at the end is terrible. It's like he does he use Doug Jones as in a lot for his
I actually don't know, but everyone uses Doug Jones, so I would imagine.
I think so, for all the kind of, in It Chapter 1, the flute lady who like chases after the boy.
Yeah.
He uses him as the model, but then just completely CGI, which it just doesn't look real.
That's not really a Doug Jones thing. Doug Jones is the guy that you put in the costume and he does a good job. Andy Serkis is the guy that you paint out of a movie and color him with something else. Like, it's really weird how Doug Jones has become like the poor man's Andy Serkis, even though he's much better. I love better. Doug Jones. Anyways, I think it took the best parts of Stranger Things and Monster Squad and The Goonies and found a way to put those Stand By Me, even put those all together, and then add the horror element and it just worked. And he does a great job. Bill Skarsgård does a great job. I think my argument between him and Tim Curry is that I think Curry is better for the fact that he did everything without the help of modern makeup and technology. Like the fact that he's literally just a guy in a clown suit, like he looks like an idiot, and he's just scary as hell. The voice, everything. Where Skarsgård is more like cartoonish, the way he talks, that with that high pitched voice. But he's very good. I think they're both like pretty equal. And you wasted it in the second movie, It Chapter 1. That's my number 2. On to you. That's a rhyme.
My number 1, which I feel like might be yours as well, is The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing.
Actually, my number 1 is The Thing. So
is it the John Carpenter one, or is it the most recent one?
Well, and this is where we're going to talk about this. The most recent one is not a remake; it's a prequel.
Oh, again, I've not seen it because I just thought
it's if you're like one of these, like, this is the thing that happens with horror a lot too. People get into these grooves of like, this is the best just because it's the original. Yes, The Thing is far better than The Thing, which is better than the other thing, but it's not The Thing. So the 1982 Thing is like an epic like milestone of movie making. And to me, it's the best John Carpenter movie. It's easily one of my favorite all-time horror movies. But the new one is still really good. And it got a lot of bad reviews because everyone was just like, it's not as good as the other one. Yeah, of course it's not as good as the other one. That's like as close to a masterpiece as like horror gets almost.
Yeah.
And it's really good. And then like, well, there's like a thing and it ends up being a prequel. But you don't know that. You think it's a remake for the whole time you're watching the movie, and then, well, too bad you're not watching it. Spoiler alert. The twist is the dog goes running to the thing just like at the beginning of the first one.
Right. Okay.
So it's like, I mean, I think it's good. But anyways, let's talk about this movie. You tell me about this one.
Well, you kind of summed it up really. It's his best, John Carpenter's best. Sadly, not his own soundtrack, but the soundtrack is great. It's got some of the best body horror stuff ever.
Yeah,
like it's just iconic. And who doesn't love Kurt Russell as well? It's just the iconic pairing of him and John Carpenter, and I think John Carpenter can be not cartoonish sometimes, but it kind of it's a bit more serious than it makes out to be. I think when you really watch it over and over again, the way it deals with the characters and stuff like that, and how they're kind of terrified of each other and how they interact with each other, it's just done so well. It's so well written. But yeah, it's just an undeniable classic, and that's not the only thing I can really say, to be honest. It's one of the best horror films generally. It's one of my favorite horror movies.
100%.
Yeah.
The practical effects, like, I don't even want to know how many times they had to light that guy on fire. Because that's all, and that was one take. The scene where they light the guy on fire is filmed all in one take. So to be able to do that is crazy. Just the stuff they accomplished, just period. Which is what's sad about the prequel is that they hired really good practical effects people to come in and do it, and they did an amazing job. If you see the behind the scenes, the monsters look amazing, and then they took everything they did and just CGI'd over top of it. So like all those hours of work, you just ruined it by like covering it up. But I mean, Keith David is great in it too. That the ending of this movie is like iconic.
Yeah.
Because it just leaves you like, is one of them the monster? Like, you don't know. So
well, unless you're looking at their breath.
Spoilers for a really old movie. Well, we just gave you spoilers for both things. And now, so what was your honorable mention?
Well, I wrote down quite a few because there's a.
Okay, what's the number one choice that you had to be like, it almost made my list?
Suspiria.
Okay, so mine is one that's going to make so many people mad. because I absolutely hate his guts, but it's Dawn of the Dead. I just
It's his only like good film in my
but
opinion.
I
So.
watched it. Well, I think Watchmen is better, but I watched it and I was like, I remember just I didn't even know who anybody in the movie was at that point, except for I
Mm,
think Ving Rhames is in it.
yeah.
Uh, and I was just like, whoa, this movie's amazing. And I used to watch it all the time. It became like one of my favorite movies, and I think that's really good. But Suspiria is also on my list.
Yeah.
It was pretty close.
It's so different from the original, and I think that's how it gets away with it. It's so dark, and it's actually that dancing sequence is horrible. It's so disturbing, but I love it when a film kind of
There's so much
yeah.
in that movie that's like disturbing, and like I'm not saying this to take away from the movie. I probably didn't like it as much as most. I'm not sure what I rated it, like a mid sevens, but
Mm,
I think that it tries too hard to do horror through like being cringy or like you know what I mean, like, and
mm,
it's a lot of times it was just like it wasn't scary. It was just like I don't want to keep looking at this person getting all twisted up into a ball. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I didn't want
yeah.
to look at it. It wasn't scary. But there are some actual like scary moments. This movie's far more less giallo than the other one is. You like that? Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
did it. But any element of that is gone in this.
Yeah. But I think it needed that. I don't think you could remake it otherwise. I'm a
Yeah,
bit um I can get a bit precious about remakes because I feel like people tend to go for the classics. It's kind of like, why do you even bother? Why, what, if there's a film in existence that like that's why I haven't watched The Thing, even though now I know it's a prequel, but like the the John Carpenter The Thing is one of the best horror films ever made. Why would you think, do you know what? I'm going to remake that one because
I
I think
love
I
how
can
you
do it
threw that in there.
better.
Like, oh, you ruined the movie I was never gonna watch. Like,
Oh no,
um,
I'm not bothered. I probably won't. I might watch it if it's
honestly,
on
watch it.
TV, but like,
It's not disappointing.
but I think because I thought it was a remake, that's
Yeah,
why I've not watched it because I'm thinking, why would you even bother
but
thinking you can do that
that
better? Because
that's what I was
it's
saying. When it
stupid.
comes to horror people, like I don't consider you that far off the deep end into like a horror person. Like when you meet these people online, they're like any movie that gets a sequel or gets remade, they is just shunned automatically. Like,
Mm.
like, but yeah, you're watching like Killer Ponies from Mars. That's like the worst movie ever, but you won't give the remake of a movie a chance. But I
I'll
mean,
give him a chance.
not
You
you,
know,
okay?
like
You're okay.
I'm always curious, but I never rush to see them. And I think, yeah, I can get a bit, and I think there's so many remakes these days. It's just a
Yeah,
bit like, oh,
that's the
right,
genre that gets
okay.
picked on the most with sequels and remakes, though. And
Mm,
it's just like just make something new, like Happy
yeah,
what's it called? Happy Death Day.
yeah,
That's like a super original spin on a genre that's already tired.
yeah.
Final Girls, that did it
Oh,
just as well. You don't like that?
no,
I think
I
it's
wasn't a
such
fan.
a fresh take on that. It follows as well. It follows is like it took something that's so tired and it gave it a new life, right? Like it's what's
See,
kind of
It
what's happening
Follows
with horror
is yeah.
now.
It Follows is great. Final Girls, I felt like was too obvious. It felt like it was for people who weren't big fans of horror. If that makes sense.
To me, I thought of it
The
as like making fun of people who are big fans of horror.
mm,
Like it's
yeah,
kind of
I
like
don't
a play
know.
on this genre is so stupid, this entire genre, and like we're just gonna like poke holes in it and make it into a comedy. I just thought it was a weird, fresh take on something that we hadn't seen.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say
yeah,
it's like
it's
an amazing
okay.
movie or anything. It's good.
No, it's okay. It's fine. But yeah, I just found it a bit too on the nose with its kind of references and stuff.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Um, but yeah, what there you
But
mentioned something. Oh, It Follows. Yeah, It Follows is great as well. But there are quite a lot of remakes that I think are good though if they can be done slightly differently. Because I've got like six films
okay, give
that
me
I could
another
put
one.
in the list. Well, I said The Invisible Man already. We've already talked about that. I had Dawn of the Dead on there as well. Um, I also had Hills of Eyes. Um,
It's okay.
what is I think it's again, it's something I used to watch a lot when I was younger. I think it's watchable and it's fun and it's gory, and it used to terrify me when I was a kid. So I, thought it was worthy. Maniac, I thought, I haven't seen the original, but the remake is great. And
That's
it's really
with what's his face, right?
Elijah
Elijah
Wood.
Wood. That guy's like in
Yeah.
every low budget horror movie is Elijah Wood.
Yeah. Well, he's got his own production company as well.
Oh.
So he gets involved with all of them. So yeah, Maniac is great. It's really quite hard to watch at times, but it's done really well, and it's a bit different, I think, because it is more indie. It takes a bit more of a darker edge to it. But and I had Let Me In as well.
Let Me In is actually all right.
Yeah, it's nowhere near as good as the
No.
original, like at all. But I think it's decent enough. Again, not many of the kind of American remakes of world cinema are that great, and it's one of the few that is actually decent. So, but yeah, that was all I had. I was trying to think of other ones I'd seen, and I was thinking,
I mean, Funny Games is okay.
I've not seen the remake because it's exactly the same as the original.
Yes, it is. But it's fine.
Yeah,
okay, well that's good. Because the rest of mine are all different than everything you said. So
okay,
prepare to be amazed. Fright Night. I like the remake of Fright Night. I think it's kind of like a little bit too similar, but the comedy level of it works pretty well. I also had the first Halloween by Rob Zombie. So I'm not saying it's like a good movie, but I really appreciated the way that it came in, and this franchise was dead. And he put such a realistic take on it, and it just felt like at that time that's what we needed. When I look back at it now, I don't feel as like fondly about it, especially because the second one is the disaster. But the first, it's such a dark take on the character. Like, and if everyone thinks Halloween the original one is dark, this movie's just like completely like cutting people up and next level. I also have you seen it? Is it one of the movies you avoided?
What, the Rob Zombie Halloween?
Yeah.
I watched it when it came out, I think, on DVD or whatever. So I've not seen it since then, but I vaguely remember it. My sister used to love all the Rob Zombie movies. We used to watch them a lot when I was younger, but I've not seen it in probably at least
I'm not
10
a
years.
fan of him. I think he makes bad movies not on purpose, but then tries to make it seem like that he meant to do that. And like his audience is convinced that he tried to make this movie this way so that it feels like this. And it's like, no, he's just not good. Sorry. But I also have the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I don't think, once again, I don't think it's like amazing, but it did a pretty good job. It's not a terrible movie. And some people really like it, which you're crazy, but it's not bad, right? Have you seen that one? Of course you haven't. And then last but not least, I have maybe the worst movie that I have on this list, but I absolutely love it because after American Pie, Shannon Elizabeth was my favorite thing on earth, and it's 13 Ghosts.
Oh my God, I used to love that.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that in so long. But yeah, it's pretty bad, but it's fun bad.
Yeah, like, it's like that's the kind of horror movies I like fun bad.
Yeah. No, that's a good shout. That's a good shout. God, I need to rewatch that one. That's been a very long time.
There's like some good parts in it. Like they had potential to be good. They just didn't do it right. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that was it. Like I say, I was trying to think of other remakes, and all the other ones that came to my head I hated. Like Rabid.
House on Haunted Hill.
Worst.
The Haunting, that was also terrible.
Oh yeah, The Haunting is. I used to watch that a lot when I was younger.
I saw it in theaters
when I was about 10, but yeah, it's awful. But yeah, Rabid is like one of the. It's a film that really angered me when I watched it. It was so bad. And I really don't like the Soska sisters at all. I really don't like them. I don't know if you've seen any of their films.
No.
They did that and American Mary.
Oh, okay. I've seen American Mary.
It's people love that film as well, and I don't get it. I think they're terrible.
That movie gets so much praise. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not trying to knock anybody, but the horror community has this weird thing where they love not good movies, but then when something good comes along, they just don't like it because it's a remake or a sequel. And I just don't get it. Like, stop. What's the stupid clown movie? Terrifier? That movie sucks.
Oh, that is awful.
It's such a bad movie, but every time Halloween comes around, I'm going to see 9,000 posts about what a great movie it is. And
I think I gave that like 1 star. It's crap.
I gave it like a 3, I think.
But yeah, Soska Sisters I avoid. That film like pissed me off. Like that rarely happens, but it really annoyed me because it was just awful. And they like to cameo in their own films as well, which annoys me because they're twins and they dress the same and just winds me up.
I really don't like that now.
It's bad. It's really bad. But yeah, I couldn't think of anything else. I was trying to look through lists. I was like, best remakes, and googling through, and I was like, nah, that's it.
Most of them are ones that I wouldn't even want to talk about. The sequels was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. This list,
so many.
This list was better, I think, in terms of like the quality of the content, but there wasn't enough of it. There was very few that are like really good.
Yeah, I think it's usually the exception to the rule that a remake is good, to be honest. And I think there was a lot of remakes in the noughties that were just awful, like especially all the J-horror ones. Like, not good.
It
like
got to the point where it was like basically any movie, also any Japanese movie was on the board because no one from the US was going to watch a Japanese movie, of course. I don't want to read subtitles. And then you had that any movie from the 40s, 50s, or 60s was up for grabs because no one remembered those properties. So you just kept getting like the Day of the Earth Stood Still and War of the Worlds, and it just like this onslaught of remakes, and it was just like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, there's trends, isn't there? That you can see the trends. Like you say, you had all the J-horror films, and then you had kind of the 80s slasher classics. You had like My Bloody Valentine and all those ones, and Prom Night and stuff like that. And then I don't even know, like now is
there's like a modern horror that I like, not Midsummer, but like the Hereditary and like Lighthouse, where I wouldn't consider Lighthouse a horror, but the way that it like shows insanity and like the building of it, like them going crazy, I really like that. I think Hereditary is fantastic. The way that that the movie, you know you're going in to watch a horror movie, but the first half of the movie, nothing about it is horror, and you're like, what is happening? And then you have a tragedy, so it stops being like this family movie and it becomes about this tragedy. And then it slowly, as like the horror elements start coming, I was caught really off guard, and it made me really uneasy because I spent an hour watching this movie and nothing scary happened. Now all of a sudden the stuff with the ghost when she's doing the seance and stuff was like, I was like, really uneasy with that. Like, I don't like paranormal shit. That's not my jam.
Is it too like,
it just
too spooky?
When I can't explain something, I don't like it. It's not really, it just sticks with me. It's like a thing because I don't know. There's no like, it's just something I don't know. And it caught me off guard. But I think they did it really well. And then it went into the whole cult thing and just like really well executed. Where Midsummer to me, I still think as a movie as a whole, it was a good movie. Like I would rate it well, but personally I didn't like it because it just didn't work at all for me, especially as a horror movie. There was nothing about it to me. Like the way people feel about Hereditary is how I feel about Midsummer. Midsummer is like a really dark drama about like a village of people that just kill everybody. Like I don't know.
That's arguably like, you know, the Wicker Man, and that's a horror movie.
I mean, is the Wicker Man a horror movie? Is it
horror musical? It is a horror movie, but it's the same idea though, isn't it? Like it's that kind of daytime horror, and it's all sunshine and it's colorful and stuff. But I think again, it's similar to Hereditary in that it's all about the grief and stuff. Though it's not really about scares. I know Hereditary does at the end, but yeah, it's less horror than Hereditary, but it's like art house horror, like the
If
lighthouses or
it's
whatever.
kind of fits into a place with like Suspiria for me, where a lot of the stuff that they tried to use to scare you was more just like, I want you to be cringy watching this. I don't. It's not going to scare you, like smashing the
Mm,
guy's head in and stuff. Like that wasn't scary. It was just like I don't want to look at that. Like,
yeah,
um, I don't know. I guess there's like weird levels of horror. I'm not really a horror guy. I've just seen a lot of horror movies.
yeah, I love it. And
I love slashers.
I go for, I went through a phase, I say a phase of about 12 years. I don't know. I'm just not, I was like impossible to get scared. I used to get scared when I was a kid. And then when I started watching them, I would just never get scared. So I was always on the hunt for something that was going to scare me. So I kind of veered toward things like Audition and whatever, like the really heavy stuff. But now I've gotten a bit older. Things do scare me now. So I'm kind of, yeah, I've watched a lot, but there's still a lot I've not seen because I was going for certain things to try and, I don't know, because I'm a weirdo, I need to get an emotional response out of it. But now, so
Well,
yeah, a lot of the extreme.
what's your go-to if you're gonna watch a horror movie? Like,
Um,
what type of subgenre of horror is what you want?
um, I really like kind of paranormal stuff, but as well, I like gore fests as well. So like you see me banging on about Inside for loads recently, the French film. It's horrendous. Like it's. Have you seen Martyrs?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not quite as heavy as that, but it's as gory. It's probably one of the goriest films I've ever seen.
Wow.
I found it on some like YouTube horror movies you've never heard of kind of thing, and I watched it and I was just like, oh my god, this is disgusting, but I love it. Like I don't know. I always liked gore and over the top stuff because that my mum is a huge horror fan and she always liked that. So, but yeah, I kind of like paranormal stuff like J horrors and things like that. They make me more uneasy, and then just all out blood and guts and stuff. I don't know why,
The
but yeah,
Japanese people know how to scare you.
they do, and like most kind of moments in films that scared me the most are from J horrors. Um, so yeah, that says a lot. I think Pulse and The Eye and The Ring, like all of those, they've all terrified me, and they still do when I rewatch them. Whereas most American films of the same subgenre don't really get to me that much. There might be the odd moment that makes me jump, but otherwise I don't get scared. So yeah, they just know what they're doing. So yeah,
All right. Well, I don't have anything else. So
no,
uh, thank you for
me
coming.
either.
And
No, thanks for having me on.
I'll put her Instagram in the bio and go subscribe or follow or whatever you guys do.